I'm Richard Randall, and welcome back to The Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, many home sellers fear the inspection. Many people think most buyers want to purchase their home as is. So, what are some of the high-cost home inspection traps that you have come across when you're selling homes?
Well, I tell you, Richard, pretty much when I represent sellers, the most derailing part of the process for them typically is when the buyer comes back and either objects to things on the inspection and asks for things, or the worst case, which I've seen this kind of more often lately, is that they just terminate, they cancel the contract, don't tell the seller why, but they said they did it based on their inspection. So it's kind of it makes it an awful experience for the seller, because the way the state contracts are structured is very buyer friendly. The buyer has a right to terminate if they don't like all these different things, if they don't like their loan, if they don't like the title work, if they don't like the inspection, if they don't like the color of the paint, if it doesn't appraise, there's all these what I call off ramps or weasel clauses for the buyer to get out of the contract and get their earnest money back. In fact, the way the state contract is designed, a buyer could walk away. If we don't protect them, a buyer could walk away at the closing table and still get their earnest money back. It's the dumbest thing ever.
Whoa.
Imagine you've moved out of your house thinking the buyer's going to perform, and they bail at the last minute and they get their earnest money back. So, that's the way the state has built the process, and there are no outs whatsoever for the seller unless you hire an agent that knows what they're doing. So, and sometimes we've lost some contracts because we're saying, okay, well, after all your due diligence deadlines have passed, then you agree the earnest money is non-refundable. We're not going to wait until closing table to wonder if this is going to happen. And some agents just flop on the floor and have a hissy fit about that. They do. They talk their buyer out of signing that deal, even though we're 3 weeks into the process. They should be, packing and moving, and they're not committed. So I deal with this all the time, and it's probably the biggest bane of a home seller's existence. And so we thought that we would do a segment and talk about the preparation piece. So we have a new program. It's called a Certified Awesome Pre-Owned Home Program, in which we help the sellers 100% prepare for this problem. There's so many things that come under scrutiny when we're dealing with inspections. There's things like, things that they don't know many times. Like I was at an open house last weekend, and this buyer came in and said, hey, we were just under contract for a home just like this around the corner, but we terminated because it had mold. And I told the seller that, and they're like, I don't even want to go under contract with that buyer, because they're just going to tie up my property for a month and terminate. So they had a good reason for it. They have a very sensitive kid that's sensitive to those things. But even still, it's up to the buyer to do their due diligence to check on all these things. And this was something the seller did not know about. The other weird thing in the state of Colorado is there's no license to be an inspector. There's no qualification whatsoever to be an inspector. But some of them definitely think that they're legends in their own brain, and they know what they're talking about, and they have an influence over whether or not the buyer goes forward with the contract or the buyer bails out. Right. So just recently I had a buyer bail out of a contract because the inspector talked him out of it. And it really wasn't anything wrong with the property. They never asked a question. They never sent a report. It was really a frustrating experience for the seller, but that's the kind of stuff that we're seeing in the market right now. So with our certified pre-owned system, we actually take care of that up front. We take care of the inspection up front. We make sure the seller gets their house prepared. So even if some Joe Billy Bob inspector comes along and asks for something ridiculous, we've got a backup to say, here it is. This is another inspector that I trust and know. And you're going to have to prove to me with another professional that what you say is actually correct. Here's a couple stories for you, Richard, just to make this clear. I actually recently had an agent come in, do they're supposed to attend their own inspections. We have to really work hard to get them to show up and represent their buyer during inspections, which is unacceptable to me.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah. They don't come. They don't want to come. Oh, I don't want to spend 3 hours on the inspection. Can't you just pay me thousands of dollars because I wrote the contract and me do nothing?
I was going to say they want the commission, but they don't want to do the work.
That's
Or put the
right.
time in, right?
That's what they do. It's hilarious. So this guy sat on the front porch, not even watching the inspector, talking on the phone, chucking and jiving. And in the meantime, the inspector's running around. This is a property with well, was literally ran the well dry, sucked sand into the plumbing system, through the well pump, into the tub, into the sinks.
Oh my gosh.
And cavitated the well. That's what he did. He ran the water for 5 hours.
Jeez.
And then he stuck a hose. This is funny. He took pictures of all this. So he stuck a hose on the where the water was running and put his little gadgets on top of it. And he showed the video in his inspection report. See, you can see the water is flowing from the hose, but the gadget says there's no water flow. You have low pressure. So the gadget meter read 0, but the water's coming out of the hose. I just cracked up when I saw that. I'm like, wow, really? So that's the kind of stuff that you need a really strong agent that's able to identify those things. And then in the end, the buyer just terminated. Oh, we don't want it, because it's just too much work to get done. But they never asked for the seller to.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Some high cost things on an inspection could include replacing the roof. So you got to watch for high deductibles. If you're thinking you're selling your home, that's something that we take care of up front. We give our clients a free upfront roof certification and have a licensed professional roofer go look at it, so they know up front if there's any problems with the roof, not later, because there are some insurance companies that put on these real high deductibles, like USAA actually puts on a deductible that's about 1% of the home's value. Well, that could be $5,000, $10,000, depending on the home's value, that the seller's going to have to come out of pocket with if they have to replace a roof. And they could just spend an extra, whatever, $100 a year or $50 a year on their policy and get a higher deductible. So if you know about those things in advance, you're prepared if they come up. Furnace replacements, we have systems that warrant those, but we're going to check out the property and we're going to give the confidence of the seller moving forward to not worry about these things. Structural stuff can come up, but those are really obvious. You can tell if you have a structural problem, you got crooked floors, you got cracks, whatever. So it's good to get on those things up front. And the one wild card that usually surprises an awful lot of home sellers are the sewer lines and the septic repairs. They can be super expensive. And if people don't have a backup or a problem, they don't tend to do anything about it. So we want to make sure that we know up front we're looking for landmines coming at us, because we want a smooth on time and closing. We don't want to worry about at the last minute, oh my God, I have to work on this very expensive repair and deal with moving all at the same time, and it could put the deal in doubt. Home sellers want a smooth on time closing. They want it to be a happy thing. Little easy things you can do, like clean and service the furnace, check the water heater, make sure there's a permit history. The Federal Pacific electrical panels are definitely going to get requested by a buyer because they've been known to have fire hazards. So deal with those issues up front. And then it's no surprise when it comes up if the buyer does their own inspection. And then, of course, plumbing. Sometimes there are surprises in plumbing. Not everybody checks their plumbing. Appliances is another thing that you don't have to include personal property appliances, which are refrigerator, washer, dryer. But if they are included, then the buyer wants them fixed. Well, an appraiser gives you $150 of value for each one. It's a prezi to the buyer. So one of the things that we do to protect our clients is offer those items as is. It's a present to the buyer. It's a courtesy to leave it there. If it doesn't work perfectly, I'm very sorry. You can sell it on Craigslist. Right, Richard? Wouldn't you appreciate that?
I do. The whole inspection thing, especially the fact that I didn't know until you told us that you don't have to get a license. You don't have to go to school. You don't have to have all of this education. I could go out and be an inspector this weekend.
Right. I could be an inspector, and I'm very, very scary with a tool in my hand. So we offer an awesome certified pre-owned home program that kind of deals with all those issues up front. And that way, you know what you're dealing with up front, and it makes the whole experience a lot better. And it gives the buyers confidence going forward to complete the deal. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you are interested in selling your home, you want to call Barb Schlinker, give her a call at 719-301-3900. And we're talking, Barb, about why home sellers should sell their home as a certified pre-owned home. Barb, what are some of the other home inspection issues that are often coming up?
Well, you want to know up front, little things like decks. So in this climate, obviously wood takes a beating, right? So you want to have those things scrutinized. Our professionals that will look at this, and if you fix anything before we get the buyer under contract, they'll take it off the report because it's resolved and we knew about it. But most of these things can be repaired, right? Little things like trip hazards around the house, broken concrete, could be an issue. Hail damage is probably one of the most common things that comes up. That's why we do a pre-certification on that. We also see some requests for cosmetic things like broken seals on windows. And sometimes the buyers are asking things as a wish list. So it is a point of negotiation, right? And occasionally they're asking for things to impose today's building code on older homes. Now, you don't have to fix those things, but some sellers want to and some push back. It just depends. And we actually have a free report that we're offering that gives you information about what to do and how to prepare for an inspection in addition to our certified pre-owned program. It's called the 11 Things You Need to Know to Pass Your Home Inspection. And you can download that free report on my website, barbhasthebuyers.com, or give us a call at 719-301-3900. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900 or just visit barbhasthebuyers.com. When we come back, we'll be talking about the cost to sell your home calculator. You don't want to miss that.